Right, so a party with no name, 230,000 members at time of writing, and the entire right-wing press doing its advertising for free. Sounds like the setup to a bad political joke, doesn't it? But the punchline may be on Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage. Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah Sultana's fledgling movement, mocked by the right-wing as chaotic and amateurish upon launch, has done what Labour has not managed in years. Ignited real excitement again amongst disillusioned voters. At the same time, the Green Party is experiencing its own grassroots surge under Zack Polanski, who has been branded a firebrand by his own colleagues for daring to talk to Corbynites, talk the language of them even. Whether this is the start of a genuine left-wing realignment or just another protest fad depends on one question. Will these forces cooperate, or will they waste this historic moment squabbling while Starmer and Farage end up dividing the spoils? Right, so Jeremy Corbyn, will he or won't he start a new party has been the question people have now been asking themselves for years. And finally, it seems we got an answer to that, confirmed in the affirmative. The former Labour leader, ousted and vilified by his own party under Keir Starmer, has joined forces with Zarah Sultana, one of Labour's most popular young MPs, who Starmer also didn't care for, so she's gone too, to launch a new political party. Yet the launch was ridiculed by much of the media because of one fairly unusual detail. The party did not even have a name, and it still doesn't. People signing up will decide that name at conference later in the autumn, but for now it has the placeholder title of Your Party. Over this, the right-wing hack rags have had a field day, though. The Times mocked the venture as amateurish, running a headline that described the initiative as confused, while Sky News gleefully reported on the messy start. Right-wing commentators had to put the boot in too. They were delighted to get their old name-calling books back out again, weren't they? The Murdoch scum's editor-at-large, certainly not a journalist though, proper ones would never work for that rag, Harry Cole went with some magic grandpa nonsense. Jewish news hack Lee Harpin bleated about Israel hatred being what unites them. Well, I dare say after 21 months of genocide, a few people feel like that about Israel, Lee, but you get the picture, don't you? Corbyn's back, and on the menu for this sorry bunch of people who allegedly provide us with news. But the mockery is spectacularly backfired too. Within 5 hours of the launch, more than 80,000 people had signed up to this new movement. By this morning, that figure had soared to around 200,000. By time of writing, it now sits at 230,000, dwarfing even the early membership surges of Reform UK and far exceeding expectations, I dare say, for a fledgling political force and all those people working behind the scenes. What made this surge even more remarkable was that it was driven not by expensive advertising campaigns or slick branding, but by the very media coverage that was intended to undermine it. The right-wing press handed Corbyn and Sultana thousands of pounds worth of free publicity, essentially. In trying to portray the movement as incompetent, as tired, oh no, Corbyn's back and all of that, it had instead made it a talking point across the country. The temporary name Your Party has nevertheless been embraced by grassroots supporters as a symbol of democratic ownership rather than as a sign of organisational chaos as the media wishes to paint it. The lack of a name just didn't matter. The message is what counted. This launch marks one of the most significant left-wing insurgencies since Corbyn's own Labour leadership campaign in 2015. It's already begun reshaping the conversation about Britain's political future. Yet this new party exists in a political ecosystem that is hostile to new entrants, particularly under first past the post. It isn't the only insurgency either. The Greens, meanwhile, are undergoing their own transformation right now. Zack Polanski's leadership campaign has driven record membership growth there too, signalling a desire amongst Green activists, many of us having joined the Greens after Starmer lied his way into power within the Labour Party, for a broader, more populist left-wing approach. But a fierce internal battle threatens to close the door to a potential cooperation with Corbyn's new movement, but I'll come on to that in a moment. The left's reawakening did not emerge from nowhere. It is the product of a decade now of political betrayal, economic hardship and growing anger at Britain's deeply unequal system. Keir Starmer's Labour Party, which swept to power on promises of competence and ethical government, itself a pack of lies built on the lies that got Starmer to the position of Labour leader, with the purges of socialists that instead followed, has governed as little more than a continuation of the Conservative project. His refusal to scrap the Tory-era two-child benefit cap, his endorsement of arms sales to Israel during the Gaza genocide, his broader pro-business positioning having alienated millions of Labour's former supporters. As Al Jazeera reported on the day of the launch, Corbyn's decision to form a new party was fuelled by years of Starmer purging the left from Labour, a campaign that expelled or marginalised many of its most popular grassroots figures. Starmer has not merely disappointed the left, he has actively sought to delegitimise it. The former Labour leader, who attracted 12.9 million votes in 2017, compared to Starmer last year only getting 9.7 million, such is the stupidity of first past the post, was treated as a political liability despite representing Labour's biggest surge in 4 decades. The expulsion of left-wing MPs and the departures of others like Sultana here and now, and the disciplining of pro-Palestine voices, the criminalising of them even. It all reinforces that perception that Labour under Starmer was indistinguishable from the Conservatives on many core moral questions, and actually is even more right-wing than them on so many too. Economic conditions have created fertile ground for this disillusionment to turn into political rebellion, therefore. The UK is in the grip of a cost of living crisis. Wages are stagnating, public services are collapsing, and wealth inequality is soaring. Reform UK has successfully channeled a lot of this anger by posing as the anti-establishment alternative, but its solutions are rooted in xenophobia and austerity rather than redistribution. In the absence of a strong left-wing alternative, Farage has been allowed to monopolise working-class discontent. Corbyn and Sultana's new party, therefore, arrives at a moment of profound political volatility. The appetite for change is high, but so too is the risk of fragmentation. So the left needs to prove it can channel this energy into electoral power, not just protest, and that requires working with others on the left too, as a collective, you might say. There's no denying the sheer speed and scale of the new party's growth, surprising, I dare say, even its founders. Within hours of launch, tens of thousands signed up. 24 hours on, the figure now stands at 230,000. So much for the jeering and booing by the silver spoon alleged journalists in the mainstream. Please carry on doing it if this is how the left is getting a boost. This is not just a large number, it's an unprecedented early-stage surge for a UK political party. This level of grassroots engagement mirrors that Corbynite surge of 2015 to 2017, but it's also different in a number of key ways as well. Unlike Corbyn's previous Labour leadership, which was constrained by party machinery actively working and conspiring against him, this new formation is designed to be bottom-up. Through the Your Party website, supporters will be able to decide everything at an upcoming conference, where they can propose policies, debate them publicly, and even vote on the party's permanent name, which we will all be looking forward to finally finding out, I'm sure. But the media's attempt to portray this as amateurish only serves to amplify interest, as aforementioned. Social media users turned the insult into a badge of honour, declaring that this was the party the establishment is already running scared of. In a political age that has been dominated by disappointment and dishonesty and cynicism, the very lack of slick branding has almost become an asset here, symbolising authenticity and grassroots enthusiasm, while the right wing, who just cannot help themselves, provided the free advertising. Yet enthusiasm alone will not overcome those structural barriers of first past the post, though obviously the Reform UK surge shows it can be done. But without strategic alliances, this mass movement nevertheless still faces very real risks of becoming another left-wing protest vehicle that changes discourse, but doesn't get the seats that it necessarily deserves. At the same time, the Green Party of England and Wales is experiencing its own surge too. Membership there has climbed to over 65,000. Okay, you might well be thinking, well, that's a lot fewer than Corbyn and Sultana have got. But that's record-breaking stuff for the Greens, who are largely marginalised themselves as just an environmentalist party with their social justice credentials not necessarily very well known or spoken about. It's still its highest level of membership in a decade, and that's thanks largely to Zack Polanski's leadership campaign. Polanski has argued that the Greens must expand beyond their traditional middle-class environmental base and embrace an eco-populist strategy, positioning the party as the left-wing alternative for disillusioned Labour voters and taking the fight directly to Reform UK. He has, prior to this new party launch, openly called on Corbyn supporters to join the Greens, signalling a willing to build alliances with the left. But this vision faces fierce internal opposition. Adrian Ramsey, running for re-election alongside Ellie Chowns this time, has attacked Polanski for having courted Corbyn supporters, warning that Corbyn's party would now wreck Polanski's strategy, that it's blown it out of the water, so to speak, and to back him and Chowns instead if they want to keep the Greens separate from Corbyn's movement, having already distanced himself from Polanski by claiming his parliamentary position makes him best placed to lead, despite no Green Party leader ever having been elected whilst already being an MP, and that parliamentary establishment positioning is exactly what turns so many of us, the voting public, and especially on the left, completely off politics. It's not just a tactical difference, it represents two completely competing visions for the Green Party's future. A Ramsey-Chowns victory would likely lock the Greens into a cautious electoral strategy, playing it safe, staying small, focusing on incremental rural and suburban gains, basically where the Greens aren't now. Not insignificant, not saying that to say the least, but not growing as they could and should. Whereas a Polanski win could transform the party into a key player, which will demand far more media attention. He's not a guy that likes to go ignored. He won't go ignored. And presenting a vision for change for the country and just thinking a lot bigger in my mind. And arguably that could be as part of a wider progressive alliance now, something I very much doubt Ramsey and Chowns could ever countenance. The Green leadership result due in September, just a week to go to be able to vote in that if you want to join the Greens, so by all means joining the Greens now is still a good move. You can vote in that election, will therefore determine whether left unity is even possible. But the strategic case for a progressive alliance under first past the post is overwhelming. The electoral system is designed to punish fragmentation. I pointed to the Reform UK's success in bucking that trend. That is in no small part due to the sheer platforming the right-wing press has given to the likes of Nigel Farage. So even if Corbyn's party and the Greens poll a combined 15 to 20% nationally, running against each other in the same constituencies will allow Labour or Reform UK to win with as little as 35 or 40% of the vote. The threat from Reform UK makes this unity even more urgent. Nigel Farage has positioned Reform as the voice of working class protest, but its solutions are privatisation, anti-immigration rhetoric, tax cuts for the rich. It's Thatcherism on steroids. They don't offer anything to those struggling with the cost of living crisis. They're just more of the same, just with more racism and pointing at small boats instead of the private jets and the yachts that need to be pointed at instead. Your enemy doesn't come by small boat. It comes by private jet. A united left alliance with a clear message on that and on wealth redistribution and on climate justice and on public ownership could reclaim the anti-establishment mantle from these snake oil salesmen. For a progressive alliance to succeed, it does not need to be a formal coalition. Tactical cooperation is enough. Conversations just need to be had, okay? An ability to just simply work together for a common good. Corbyn's party could focus on urban working class seats where Labour has grown complacent, while the Greens could concentrate on university towns and rural progressive areas where they may already have more of a base. Common sense should dictate that largely. Joint campaigning on key issues such as public ownership, renationalisation, Palestine solidarity and climate action would demonstrate a shared platform. Corbyn and Polanski have already done this, helping voters see them as complementary rather than competing forces. And for me, that is essential. Building trust through local level cooperation, such as mutual endorsements in council elections, could lay the groundwork for deeper collaboration going forwards, a united left. Historical precedents for this exist. Informal Labour-Green arrangements in 2017 helped attempt to unseat Conservatives in several marginal areas. The most notable example that I could think of earlier was the attempt to take out Ian Duncan Smith, where the Greens stood down there to give Labour the better chance. If cooperation fails, the outcome is predictable. Labour consolidates whatever vote it's got left. Reform UK entrenches itself as the main voice of protest amongst working class communities, particularly in the north. And Corbyn's party risks becoming another short-lived insurgency. The Greens, if Ramsey wins and Chowns wins, could alienate the very voters Polanski's attracted, leaving them stuck as a niche environmental party rather than the transformative force they absolutely could and should be right now. So if unity succeeds, the prize could be historic, therefore. A united left bloc could win enough seats to hold the balance of power in a hung parliament, maybe even take power itself. It really is down to the party leaders and what they do going forwards that will dictate this, using that leverage to demand proportional representation. Such a reform would permanently break that stranglehold of first past the post, the stranglehold of the two-party consensus, which fails election after election, giving the left a path to sustainable growth and governments that end up truly representative of the people of this country. So for my money, the left stands at a crossroads right now at this point. Corbyn and Sultana's movement has already mobilised 230,000 people without even having a name, fuelled by grassroots energy and widespread disillusionment with Labour, as well as the mockery of the right-wing hate rags. The Greens are also at a turning point, with Zack Polanski offering a path towards unity and Adrian Ramsey pulling largely in the opposite direction, in my view. A guy that couldn't even say he even liked Polanski on radio the other day. That's his own party's deputy leader. So these forces unite. Corbyn and Sultana-led party on one hand, Polanski-led Green Party on the other. They could build the most significant left-wing insurgency since 1945 in British politics, challenging Labour's complacency, blunting Reform UK's rise, finishing the Tories off with any luck, and perhaps even forcing the introduction of proportional representation, which is so long overdue. If they fail, well, we already saw what happened to Corbyn once, and the price we're now paying for a Starmer-led government. If they fail, they risk condemning Britain to another decade of centrist drift and right-wing populism, with the blight on all of our lives that that's going to be. So the choice is very clear to me, and most pertinent to those with a say in either party right now. Either shape history or condemn this country to more of the same. For me, as a Green Party member, as a Polanski backer, as a former Labour member and Corbyn backer, an alliance going forward of some form is a must. We can't have the left being split yet again. For more of what is at stake, just look at Starmer's authoritarianism as exemplified by police actions right now, where 76-year-old socialist legends get arrested for being pro-Palestine, while fascists in Epping protesting asylum seekers get largely unbothered. Check out that story in this video recommendation here as your suggested next watch. Please do also hit like, share and subscribe if you haven't done so already, so as to ensure you don't miss out on all new daily content, as well as spreading the word and helping to support the channel at the same time, which is very much appreciated, holding power to account for ordinary working class people. I'll hopefully catch you on the next vid. Cheers, folks.